Hello, everyone, and welcome to the East Coast Economic Update for June the 2nd, 2017. A couple of things I would like to try to share with you. Doug had posted, hi Doug, over at Goat Hollow, posted that the numbers for May came in very, very shabbily. And if you look at, I've got the squeaky chair of truth, by the way, in case you guys remember that. The real truth here is if you look at John Williams' shadow stats, and if you haven't, go over there to shadowstats.com. The last iteration, we had a peak of about 26%, give or take, and I think it's now, I haven't checked today yet, but last month I think was around 19 to 20%, and I think we're going to jack that back up to about 22, 24% with the numbers, with the real FDR numbers, not the crazy mishigas that we have now. So what I'm trying to say is this: there's a saying, of course, in Wall Street, cash out in May, see you in September. And what that used to mean was that they would take all their volatile investments, cash it out just before Memorial Day, and then go on vacation and come back. And usually during this period of time, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, all hell would break loose, and it's happened a number of times. This time it's a little different. We have two conflicting situations going on, and I get into a lot of arguments online about this. The two conflicting issues are this: we have an economy that is recovering. I'm putting that in quotes, and at the same time we have Moore's law being in play. And a lot of people, when I start talking about Moore's law, they say, well, first of all, it's not a law. Second of all, it has something to do with people. But if we look at examples of the Industrial Revolution, for example, I refer to Moore's law today as the 21st century version of John Henry. If you know the story of John Henry, he tried to he was going to lose his job as a guy who could dig a tunnel and lay rail, as opposed to this machine which would lay rail automatically. John Henry dies and he's immortalized, but the truth of the matter is that the machine, even though John Henry won, he died and the machine continued on. Progress, even though we hope for the human factor, technology still advances at a rate which will outstrip our necessity for physical human labor. After saying that, we're in a situation right now where there's another cycle of Moore's law, another 18 months in which it's coming up. It's not 18 months yet. And the reason why I'm saying this is a couple of things, and I'm going to list the links here below. First, we have both about less than 12 months ago, give or take, virtual reality and 3D printers became viably to be sold viably in the public sphere. But they're still very expensive and they're kind of clunky. That was approximately 9 to 12 months ago. This technology, the robotic portion of it, not necessarily the gamer portion and what you can do with a 3D printer, is getting smaller exponentially, and it's getting better. And that technology and the software behind it is also advancing other technologies such as AI and robotics. In fact, I also post here, there's an article stating that even white-collar workers in Detroit are losing their jobs because the software is running much more efficiently to watch over the robotics than the middle level white-collar worker. So there's going to be a lot of displacement, and it may have already started based today in May. I have to say something, and I may have said this before, which is this: by the time mainstream media is talking about something, it has already happened. They're not talking news, not for you, not for me. They're talking about history, stuff that's already in place. It's kind of like goose stepping, and we're reporting today that there might be fascists coming, and that's really what's going on. By the time the mainstream media, all media, not just the mainstream media, are reporting stuff, the cake has been baked, icing has been put on, candles have been placed, and they've already been lit. Don't be surprised. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you a couple of seconds notice, because what we know and what is coming about, we may have a little bit more advanced, but this much more advanced knowledge than the mainstream media and the average American. So what's happening is we're reaching a point, a tipping point, where technology is now outstripping the necessity of people to even do tasks that were considered necessary for a highly educated force. Um, Middle class, white collar folks are losing their jobs because they're not needed. And corporations always operate from the highest amount of profit with the least amount of expense. And if that expense is you sitting in a desk doing your job, where a robot or a computer can do it, well, you're out of luck. In fact, even guys like me who are self-employed, our software is getting more and more efficient to do the jobs that we do, to the point where, 10, 15 years ago, I had a crew of 12. Now I have less than a crew of 3, running 3 times the amount of work that I did 15 years ago. So technology is causing a shrinkage in where we're going, and unless you're self-employed, and your self-employment is something that is uniquely allowing you to to go with the maturation of technology, I would strongly suggest that you start to do that if you haven't already. But I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I said that whoever became president in 2017, they would be considered the worst president in history. Not for any other reason, and trust me, we have a lot of reasons, but because technology is going to tip over, where it's no longer going to be, terrorism, or Mexicans taking your jobs, or industrial jobs, whatever. It's going to be the computers and the robots and everything else that's going to have a sticker next to it said "Made in America," because they created themselves here in the United States. So who are you going to go after next? The other thing is, in another article that I'm going to post, one of the interesting things, and it's kind of like wag the dog. You have folks who are vegetable producers asking technology companies to create robotics so they can pick fruits and vegetables like they had for migrant workers, because there is this fear about migrant workers not wanting to cross over illegally, or they're afraid to come across to do the jobs that they've been doing since probably the end of the Civil War, 150 some odd years. And don't forget, the mainstream media is pointing this out, so it's already done. And what we're going to be surprised, well, you won't be surprised because you're listening to this video, but I'm making a prediction, and if I'm wrong, that's great, because it's going to benefit everybody. But if I'm right, this is the point where technology is going to outstrip human beings, and there will be an open, loud, full-throated discussion about a universal human living wage for people, so because they're unable to be trained fast enough to find other work. So this universal income that they've been kind of talking about at the IMF for the last 10, 12 years is now going to become a full-throated discussion. And you're going to see whoever is president now, we know who it is going to be considered the worst president. Whoever is going to follow him is going to be considered the greatest president, only because we're going to see a full-on collapse because we didn't prepare for this. And other countries, even though they're going to feel pain, have been preparing for this for about 2 decades. So just letting you know. So I'll keep you informed as I can. Keep your eyes to the skies and have a great summer.